Hello there, welcome to the stream. We'll be getting underway in about 60 seconds time. Do skip ahead if you're watching after the fact. I'll see you there. Alright, the MD11, the Mad Dog by Rotate in Xplane 12. Of course, it had already been out for Xplane 11. They updated it to make it compatible with Xplane 12. I think they added, were they one of the ones that added a little charge on or not? I can't recall. Either way, I took it for a spin. It's one of the first videos I did on this channel when I started pumping out videos a little while ago. Going back a bit, I don't know, shortly before Christmas anyway. And I was really impressed. It was the first time I'd flown the Mad Dog. And I just went off, gut instinct. How does it work? Looks a little bit more like an Airbus than it does a Boeing. But it's certainly a little bit in between. But, 3 parts Airbus, 1 part Boeing. That's for sure. And so that's enough waffle. Let's come over and take a look at what we're talking about here. And we'll fade away the music as well. And so, yeah, here we go. Of course, the big giveaway. The engine up top at the back. Lufthansa Cargo still flies these around today. In fact, they put out a lot of videos on YouTube. Or somebody does. I don't know who it is. But there are 2 or 3 women Lufthansa pilots that seem to fly this thing exclusively. And seem like they have a lot of fun doing it. Yeah, and so we're going to try and replicate that today, although we're going to start as this. That was tight underneath the back of the MD11. Yeah, so we're here at Manchester, and at least the first segment of the flight. Let's see if I can... sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, so let's have a little look. EGCC to EGPL, indeed it does, so we'll leave that one on there. Quick look at the map then. This is what we're doing. So you see there we're in Manchester, basically in the central of the UK, slightly over to the west side, clearly. And we're going to fly up. And in fact, that green line at first glance appears like it goes off the top of the map. Actually doesn't. There's an island just to the west of the Scottish coast that we'll be visiting. It goes by the name of Benbecula. What a cool name is that? I've never even heard of it. And it's got an airport with a runway of 6,000 feet long, so I'm kind of surprised I've never heard of that airport. Benbecula. Sounds like some tropical island somewhere that belongs in the Bahamas, but alas, no. It's right off the Scottish coast, and so we'll be visiting there, drop off some stuff on our first leg, and then we'll be moving on from there to Stornoway, which is just to the northeast off the Scottish coast. That second leg will be much shorter than the first. So this one, the first leg is expected to be about an hour long, and the next one much shorter than that. We'll see, can the Rotate MD11 handle a turnaround? And by that, I mean, do we need to, if we need to exit the game entirely, then that's not really handling a turnaround. And some modules are basically one-trick ponies like that, although most of them, once they refine them, they allow you to basically reset the cockpit for the next flight without having to completely reload the aircraft, which of course kind of defeats the object of a good module, doesn't it? So we'll see how that works. Last time I flew this, it was all right. There were a couple of minor issues. We'll see if those are any better. One of which was when we were basically in managed mode, or LNAV, VNAV as the Boeings would call it. This thing kept us high for long and brought us down really hot, and I really had to work the boards at the end, and even then I was slipping and sliding to get ourself in on final approach, and overriding what the managed mode was trying to do, which was to keep us even higher, even longer. And that was despite umpteen restrictions in the McDo telling it to bring us down. So we'll see if that's done. We'll mix up a couple of different approaches today. We'll see if we can go basically what is an RNP style approach. We'll see if it's capable of doing that. If not, we'll mix it up regardless. We'll try and get in an ILS if we have one available. If we don't, you know, we've got VORs. I even believe that our second destination, Stornoway, has got one of the old style NDB approaches. So we'll try and rig that up as well. See if it's even possible in this thing. And I think that is a really long intro there out the way. Let's fold the map away. Quick look there. There we go with the flight number. Lufthansa cargo 22 we're flying as today. EGCC to EGPL. So there we go. Jumping inside the cockpit, then we'll go make a start. Real long intro. I do like the old style controls here and the textures, looking like somebody has sat here 1,000 times before. And even though the aircraft's not powered, we can throw the stick around. That doesn't really do much. Can we move the tiller as well? We can. And I've already taken the liberty to get some fresh air, because if I don't open the window here, I'm not going to get any fresh air all day. In fact, it's a little chilly, so we will close that one up. And minor little thing, but, you know, I like it. It's not just when you open the window, and again, so many modules just don't bother with that. It's that when it's open, you can hear the outside better, which seems obvious and simple, but again, so many modules just don't bother with it. Check it out. It's silly, innit? But yeah, well, if it's so simple and so silly, why don't everybody do it? All right, let's come up top then. And we've got a cover and... Uh-oh. Battery's flat. You know what? I turned the battery on and the standby power to get my... to just check that the weights were correctly. And I think they've actually simulated a complete drain on the battery, which is really nice. Because, yeah, I turned the battery on here. This is clearly before I went live. Setting up the, you know, the thumbnail and whatnot. I turned the emergency power on. I've clearly forgotten about it. And I'm only talking like 20 minutes. And that booted everything up. I wanted to check, and I think I forgot actually to check the RX cycle was updated. But in any case, I think they've genuinely simulated a completely flat battery. Because look, there's nothing happening. So I'm going to be curious now. If we ask for ground power, can we basically recharge this thing? Do you know what? A free test thrown in there for free. How do we go about ground power in this thing? We do. There is a special menu here. It's here, the MD11. By the way, one thing that I'm going to say right up front is this thing chops your frame rate in half. So if you're used to getting 60 frames a second, expect to get 30 frames a second when you run this. This thing it runs as bad in terms of frame rate and performance as the SSG 747, which is about as bad as any. The Tolis, you know, if you get them was up at 60, if you get your Zebo up in the high 50s or 60, this is going to tank your frame rate to, well, you see it there. We're struggling even to hit 30 at this point. So just be aware of that. If you're already struggling to get like 40 frames a second, expect to get 20 in this, which is kind of bordering on the unplayable. Certainly, I would like to see them work on the frame rate and push it up. I mean, Fearless is 747, and we know how complicated that is, especially with the whole fully simulated engineer station there. Even that gets like 10 frames better than this. And so, yeah, just one thing to be aware is there. So, in any case, let's get rid of that. Let's get the aircraft. Ground operations. We see the wheel chocks are set. That's the default. Let's get the ground power unit requested. I don't know what cockpit stairs. I mean, it sounds obvious. Stairs up to the cockpit, but they'd just not be... Well, we'll see. We'll see. Let's have a little look outside then. Okay, so it's just regular sort of stairs up to the aircraft. I don't know why they would be called cockpit stairs. I mean, surely they're just normal stairs in the same way that, you know, whether this is a freighter or not. If you zoom in, you can actually see where the passenger windows have been. I was going to say blacked out, but I don't know if that's the right term, or whited out or painted over, but regardless, you can see it did used to be a passenger aircraft that's been repurposed. Yeah, so... Alright, with ground power on, we've got the ground power available, so let's hit that. And at least now we got some life. Battery switch on, even though there's nothing in it. We'll get the emergency power activated. And at least now, yeah, so that whole thing was simulated. And I'm just trying to see, where do we see the battery voltage? There doesn't seem to be a display. Because I reckon if we could see it, or an ampage, it would have read 0 at the point that... Yeah, so it looks like standby emergency power is very limited on this aircraft. Like, again, I can't have had it up for more than 10 or maybe 15 minutes before going live. And in that time, unless, of course, it was not full to begin with when I first jumped in the aircraft. There's always that possibility as well. Good afternoon there, Hardily Streams. Nice to see you. So let's see if we can get this aircraft underway then. I feel like I've been waffling. So the nav switches, my side, your side, the standby one. It's going to start the onboard checks. Cargo temp will leave low, aft. We'll leave that all in the default. Engine ignition, these are basically when you want to start it up. These buttons, as far as I can tell, is what on the Airbus you have a little dial here that's basically you turn to the right when you're ready to start the engines, and then when it's done you leave it in the middle or the off position. That is basically this, where you hit these, or the override I think does both, and then it makes the engines ready to start, as far as I know. Again, I'm no expert on the Mad Dog, I just know enough to get it going. Let's get the logo light on. The nav lights seem to be complete. Some of these lights are backwards. So, for example, the logo is very clearly on-off. The nav, it's off when the lights light up for off. And so blank is clearly on. Your runway turn-offs is the other way on. So when they're off, as in black, that means they are off. So a bit of backwards way on labeling of these lights. Beacon, is more clearly lit. Your high intensity light there is your strobe lights. Yeah, so they mix up the naming a little bit, and they mix up, whether it's showing whether the lights are on or off. It's all a bit backwards, kind of bizarre. Emergency lighting then, we'll arm that. Test. I guess we're not going to see that from the cockpit. Alright, well, we're going to take on this journey over to the islands only 52.2, and that's because the runway on the islands are quite short. The first stop is Ben Bakula's just 6,000 feet runway, and then at Stornoway it's less than 5,000 feet long. So we'll have to see if the FMC or the McDo here will even accept a runway that is that short. We'll have to see. And at least for the first stage, we do have a fully implemented flight plan. The only thing I'm going to ignore, and this seems to be a bit of a bug with SimBrief, is that when you define how many passengers can the aircraft take, well, clearly it's a freighter. It takes 0 passengers because it's just cargo. For some reason, it then decides to give you hundreds of passengers. I don't know what this bug is all about. And so in future, I think what I'm going to do is reset it that it can only hold 1 passenger and then ignore it. And the reason is the difference between 0 and hundreds of passengers, it's a big weight discrepancy, and it makes the flight plan wrong. And of course, then SimBrief starts to account for what is ideal cruise levels based on weights, and everything's just wrong. So we're going to ignore everything to do with weights. We're just going to focus on the flight plan itself. The Waffle House found its new waffles. Where are we dropping them today? Well, Ben Bakula and then Stornoway. That is where we're going. All right, so let's have a look then. Flight plan. We will load up here. Charts just to refresh. EGCC to EGPL, Jan 22. I'll try and scale this up a little bit for the purposes of the stream. And so there's our departure. We'll have to see if we make that on time. So FMC1, aircraft status MD11, engines the CF6s, which I don't think there's an option to change them. I think they are just what you get. And indeed it is, yeah. Sometimes modules come with 2 or even 3, or even if you get the tow list with the what was it had on the Neo. I think there's about 5 or 6 engines on that one, which is something else. Maybe I need to update the Iraq cycle on this. I'll do that for a future. It does seem to come with its own, but active database May 20. Well, regardless, we'll skip over that minor discrepancy. So from 2, I think, can you load them in on this? Not allowed company route. Let's try EGCC, EGPL, and 01. Well, it didn't immediately error, so we'll have to see. I'm not so sure it did now. Alright, EGCC then. EGPL. That's in. Alternate is, let's have a little look. EGPF. Flight number Lufthansa cargo just 22. Initialize IRS. Oh, I guess. POSREF. Fine. Cruising at, this is for our first leg in any case, 36. And how are we doing there? Cost index, quite a high one, 106. I don't know if that's as aggressive as it would be in the Zibo or the Airbus. Certainly 106 on those would be basically pretty much barber pole territory, and we'll have to see if that's the same for the Mad Dog. I know, like in the 747, like, you know, typically your cost index is up to 1,000, and they space it out more, you know, so 106 would be much more like, you know, I don't want to call it 10 or 11, but certainly on the lower end of the spectrum. All right, that's there. We'll have to see. Page 2, the weights. Again, we're going to ignore this. We're going to go with our own. The only thing I will grab, though, is the fuel. And total fuel, basically 40,000. So that's it. Every weight today is in pounds again. And then 52.2 on the cargo. So we need the load manager on the rotate menu. And again, if you've not set this up on the hotkey, it's just in the menu there. Total payload then 52.2, or as near as I like that you can type it as well as drag this. It's one of the little pet peeves about the tow list that you can't do that, and you sort of, depending on what it is, sometimes you're like £1,000 or more off, which is not zero. Payload, always the CG's way off on this. You've got to move it basically far forward, and block fuel we said was at least 50. Now let's go with 56. There we even see the takeoff CG's right on the edge there. Now if we did put more fuel in, we see that does get more comfortable, but when you're low on weight like we are and low on fuel, that can be thrown quite a ways off. You know what, let's just increase the payload a little bit. Let's go like that, because we're still relatively light. And of course we can move these weights. I'm just going to leave it as is. There's no point to put these restrictions on, and then hopefully that's going to auto, and it does. It basically instantly auto-filled. Usually you've got to type these things out, so that's nice to see. But see, I will need my arm to fly. She's slung herself over my arm again. Alright, so the init is done. What about page 3? What we got there? That's just more information on the weights. I don't think we need anything. Potentially, yeah, fuel dump. I think we did try. I can't remember now if we tried to dump fuel on this or not. If I remember to do it, we'll do it on the final leg. So from EGCC then, this is Manchester International. I don't think they call it International, just Manchester. It used to be called Ringway, ways back when. But then they updated it to Manchester. So page 2, we're expecting runway 23 right. Oh, that's... let's have a little look. What is 23 right? Because I'm almost sure it's usually 23 left. It's yeah, for departure it's almost always going to be 23 left out of Manchester. I think if it's quiet, you know, they'll arrive and depart everyone off 23 right just because it's nearer. But normally they use 23 right for landing because you can't really use 23 left for landing. I mean, it puts you out here. I mean, it's possible, but they don't do it. And then in between the landing aircraft, they have aircraft cross over the runway here that queue up on the taxiway here, ready for departure on 23 left. Now we've been given 23 right, but we're going to go with tradition and actually refocus that to 23 left. Charts then. First stop is Barton with no SID, just a direct to. Now this is possible to do. I'm just wondering... It would be a lot better and more realistic if we did go with a SID departure. So Barton, let's see if we can. Here's Barton. So that's our first waypoint there. We're here. I guess it's a little short of a distance to have a full-on SID. So I think what we'll do is the standard missed approach procedure for 23 left, at least initially, and then we'll just hook that up with Barton. That's the plan. So it's 23 left. We'll just pick anything. I mean, it's just 232 straight ahead up to 3000, so it's a real simple one. We're obviously not going to hold anything more exciting. The RNP, well, no, it's just straight ahead 232, so 232, and then we'll go direct Barton. Initial climb, again we don't have a SID, so we'll just go with 6000 because that's pretty much standard. Plan mode then. 23 left, that's it. Insert. Let's see if we can fill this in on the regular way then. I'll move it down there so we can try and see all three of these at once. Okay, you don't click to type. You maybe type first and then click. Barton, there we go, and of course it's going to be the top one that's 9 nautical miles away. There is a discontinuity in between 23 left and Barton, and we need to keep that there because again we're going to be taking off flying on runway heading 232 and then at some point going Barton. Then from Barton to Croft. Do we do that via here? Next waypoint, I guess. C-R-O-F-T. It's more like the Airbus than the Boeing already at this point. And from there to Vameb. From Vameb to DCS, which is, I think, Dean's Cross, but it's also, of course, Digital Combat Simulator. Really like that game. I'm trying to keep that separate from this channel, though, simply because I have my dedicated one over there, and if I start mixing that up, who knows where we'll end. Then it's GOW, I think that's Glasgow, and then OBA, can't recall what that is offhand. Looks like we've got both a VOR as well as an NDB here. OBA being 215 away, the NDB being 416. If we look at the lat long, Oftentimes, and I've seen it, you get a VOR and an NDB in the same place by the same name. These are clearly not in the same place. They're a long ways off. And I need to confirm that that one is even correct. 1055. So let's scroll down through the waypoints here. There's OBA 1055. So that is indeed the correct one. And then top of descent, then it's Suppit. It's going to go back here. I don't think we've had an airway. It's just been point to point to point, which is kind of unusual. Usually we'd be on an airway. I guess we're a bit out back in that regard, so maybe they don't feel that there's enough demand in this area. And again, these two very similar on the lap, but the long East 92 is obviously ways off. That's like over in China or something. So it's the first one here, Suppit, and then that's it. EGPL 24. Again, no star, no approach, at least not now. So we'll connect that up once we're on the way. We'll leave the discontinuity in. And so with that, flight plan is in. Prog. Secondary doesn't seem to be implemented. Let's just flight plan secondary. No, I guess there isn't one. That's fine. Performance page then. Eco climb. Cruise. We'll leave all the speeds there default. I'm looking for my weights and so on. I don't recall entering. Oh, I think actually we did put a top of cruise in. All right, takeoff. One of my favorite things about the Mad Dog is the dialer flap. And that, yeah, default is 15, but basically we can spin this dial around and select any flap that we want. So it doesn't have to be, you know, 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever. You know, if we want, we can go with 18.4 on the flap. I mean, why not, right? Let's go with 18.4 just to prove the point. And so I guess that's going to go in here. Flex. Do we have a takeoff calculator on this, or is it just... It doesn't look like it. Flex. So I'm gonna, we know we're not that heavy. We know the runway is quite long. It's 3 degrees outside. So I think I'm gonna derate to something. Let's go to 53 degrees. So I'm thinking there, what's that? 50 degrees. If we go 3 and 53, I think that's how it works. So we derated it by 50 degrees overall. Flat, we said, what was it? 18.3? Oh, 4. 18.4. So 18.4 degrees, and there we go. And it wants us a stab trim there of 6.8. We'll try remember that. Slope is 0, and with regards to the winds, which I've completely neglected to grab the ATIS, but better late than never. Let's do it now. We're certainly not pushed back yet, so I don't think anybody noticed. 121.98. Let's hit them up and see what they've got to say. 121.98 active. Turn it on. Oh, that's the mic. I guess we don't need. Oh, there we go. That's what we want. And just in case it's on 120. Oh no, it's working.
Delta 1150 Zulu arriving runways 23 left 2.
Hiya Stim Stream. Well,
runways 23 left 23 right. Weather wind.
I've flown it once before, and it was... Oh, no, I think I've maybe flown it 2 or 3 times. Certainly once on stream, and I did like it. Not flown it since the update, so we'll have to see.
Fuel at 16,000. Fuel at 24,000. Temperature 3. Dew point 0. QNH 1032. Advise on initial contact you have. Information Delta
1032. So that's that one. There's QNH.
Manchester information
1032, so quite high.
Runways 23 left 23 right. Departing.
Well, at least we can use 23 left.
23 right. Weather Wind 170 degrees at 5 knots. Variable 150218.
Right, 170 at 5 knots. One of the unique things on this, I recall now, you can't put in 170 at 5 knots. If you see, it's just slope and wind, and it wants you to calculate the headwind component, basically. So if we imagine 170 at 5, which is, if you imagine my mouse being the wind, is blowing up just to the left of the north. We can basically, for our purposes, just assume it's blowing north. We're coming down this runway here, or rather the 23 left, but it's the same. So it's about 45 degrees off, we can say, the wind, give or take. And so if you want to get 5 knots of wind, and you're putting it 45 degrees off, it's basically going to give us about 3 knots of headwind. It's certainly not going to be 5. It's also going to be about 3 knots of crosswind as well. And so on the wind there, I think it's HD for headwind, and then 03 to tell it it's 3 knots, I think. And there, that's been accepted. Clearly, if your weights are nearer the limit and the winds are a bit more and the angles are a bit off, you're going to want to use some sort of a calculator to get a more precise figure. Yeah, so there's that outside air temperature. Yeah, I think they are. We'll have to see. The last time I flew this, the managed navigation and vertical stuff, it kept me high. And I basically had to disconnect the autopilot and stick the boards out, and I was slipping and sliding all the way down to try and capture the ILS. So we'll have to see if that side of it's been fixed as well. Outside air temperature is 3 degrees, so just 3. Do I have to put a Charlie on the end? We do. There we go. And now we get the V speeds. 124 is the decision, rotating on 140, and if it all goes wrong, it's 150 on the climb out. And yes, that goes in here. By the way, I like that if you scroll the mouse wheel fast, they make it jump a lot of numbers. That makes it really easy to turn this a lot very quickly, especially when it comes to like heading or the altitude. There's not worse than you sat there spinning and spinning for half an hour with your mouse wheel trying to change some of these settings, so that's nice to see. Alright, so that's in. What about thrust limit then? So we got the takeoff, we've got the D rate, which we've got in, and that's based on our flex of 53, which is actually going to give us a thrust of less than what our max continuous is capable of. And then climb is going to be 97.2, it looks like. We'll have to see if that turns out to be okay. And again, we are quite light. Align IRS, we've got this thing to align. There we go. So I'm guessing there we're good to go. Let's have a real quick look. So if we come over here, reference page, is it pos ref? Yeah, FMCs look like they're good to go. Page 2, yeah, so I think everybody there is aligned and ready to go. And so flight plan your side, takeoff page my side. All works well aside from the VNav on descent. I just plug it. Alright, so I'm glad I'm not the only one that has had that bother. We'll see if it's any different then on this version. We've got the... We'll adjust your V speeds for taxi fuel burn. When you don't confirm them, they will appear on the speed tape. Alright, okay, when you engage ATS. And I assume engaging ATS is like the toga. Again, I'm not an expert on this. And ATS. Set that to auto brake. Let's see then. Emergency power test fail. That, I think, is a remnant of our flattening the battery at the start. I wonder if that's been resolved since. Let's try it again. Because we've been plugged into the ground for a little while now. Where's that test button gone? It was right here. I can't see the wood for the trees now. Never mind, we'll ignore it. When you're lined up, Click autoflight once to arm the ATS. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, but the first time I flew this, I was like, right, I want to try and see if I can just get the thing going without looking at a manual. And obviously, I know the Airbus ones, I know the Boeing. Obviously, the Mad Dog is a little different, but again, it feels 3/4 Airbus, 1/4 Boeing, I have to say. The steering wheel, the control yoke, right? But let's try and keep it fun. The steering wheel looks like it's out of a Boeing, except bigger on the left than the right. But this thing down here, aside from it just being green and black, is certainly the guy who invented this for McDonnell Douglas clearly went over to Airbus to work there. That to me seems kind of obvious. All right, well, the weights are in, the flight plan's in. We're aligned. Let's try. Yeah, it is a shame it takes them a long time, and well, we'll see how crazy this is. So the fuel there is all good, more than enough. The cargo's on. APU. I do like that on this one. Yes, you can start the APU back here somewhere. Where are we? Yeah, here. But it basically automatically comes on if you request for it. So, for example, if I want APU power here, I'm going to press it, and it starts flashing because it's not ready, and it starts booting it up by itself. And I think that's just a really nice, makes sense kind of a thing that I don't know why they took that away in all the newer Boeings and Airbuses. I mean, you know, if you want APU power, it makes sense you're going to start the APU up first, wait a bit, and then put it on the bus. But if you ask for it to come onto the bus when it's not ready, why not start the thing up automatically? I mean, it makes sense. We've got the and the bleed here as well. I guess, can we automatically hit that one up as well? Well, we'll soon see. We'll see what happens. And then with a bit of luck, we can get everything ready to roll. And you can all laugh at me at how little I know about this aircraft. But I tell you what, in terms of detail, I really, really like it. The textures on it, it's one of the nicest modelled aircraft I've seen so far. I mean, take a look here at the detail just on this wing light. We got the light inside, and it's covered with this, you know, I doubt it's glass, but it's probably going to be plastic or like a see-through carbon fibre. And so the entire thing isn't just a light per se. The light is behind, you know, as really is in aircraft, right? So that's nice to see. The little winglets. What are they when they both? Do they call them the splits or the sharklets? I'm never really sure. Either way, helps reduce the overall width of the aircraft, which of course makes them cheaper to park at airports, because if they extended that out long ways, it would be, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet wider at either end, and then Lufthansa or whoever would have to pay more to park the plane, because, you know, airports charge by how big and wide the plane is, because, you know, planes are wider, they need to build more space. But they still provide extra lift by preventing the air that flows over the wing from actually just escaping off the side. That's what they do. It's not like a stability thing. Some people think, oh, it's there for stability. No, it's nothing to do with stability. As the air flows over the wing, you know, which is done for creating lift, by having this there, it prevents it just escaping off the side of the wing. And, yeah, adds on about 70 or 80% as much lift as had they just made the wing even longer. Of course, saving the airline the cost of making a wider wing. I really like the dirty, grimy look as well. Makes it look like an old plane, very well used. Really, really like how they've modelled the tail there with the engine. It just looks really, really nice. And I'm sure I've used it as a screenshot before. Beautiful. We can hear the APU running, so let's see if we can. Is it working? Oh, it's on. It says it's on. So let's disconnect external power. And fingers crossed, we don't die. And we don't. So that's good. I can hear the packs. So that's good. So let's come over to, not that one, this one. And ground operations. Get rid of the ground unit. Get rid of the cockpit stairs. May as well get rid of the chocks and all. And with that, we're ready, I think, for pushback. Yeah, the thing with the graphics and realism, it's this. I'm always somebody that prefers something that behaves more realistic than seeing the best graphics, and it's why I really don't like Call of Duty games. Alright, the graphics are incredible, but the realism is about as arcade-like as you'll ever get. And then, well, while the aircraft looks really good, you know, I mean, it's not really a secret that a lot of Xplane, granted, they've sorted the sky out and the lighting and a lot of things. And if you go close up into the town, I mean, for a flight sim game, let's just do it just for a moment to prove the point. I mean, it's not terrible, is it, for a flying game? I mean, we've got this garden thing. We've got a tree in the middle of the road. We'll let that one slide. We've got lampposts. We've got random sheds. We've got little bushes out the front. We've got a garage. Some steps up to the house, a driveway. I mean, this is a flying game. Now, granted, this is just like auto-gen scenery, but it's not bad, is it? And when you look at the trees, I mean, look at them. You've got the individual leaves there, the branches. It's not all swaying as one. There's like separate parts to the tree. Granted, the houses look like they're out of Germany, not the UK, but again, we'll let that one slide. It's okay. The textures, leaves a little to be desired, let's face it, but overall, really impressed. Does it look better in Call of Duty? Yes, but then again, you can only ever go 10 meters to the left or to the right, and that's it. And you've just got to keep going straight on. Of course, they can make things look better if they only have to render, 50 yards of scenery, and this has to render 50 miles at one time. And of course, the entire world is in, which the fact it fits in on a hard drive, again, I find insane. All right, I think we're about good to go. I'm trying to think, have I forgotten anything critical? I hope not. Let's ask then for our pushback. I think we'll just push straight back here, and we'll start the engines, and then we'll taxi round to the left.
Ground to cockpit. Plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you're ready.
We're ready, please.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Thank you. So Ben Bakula, here we come. And for those joining a little later, let's quick overlay on the map. So there we are, Manchester on the central western side of the UK, and Ben Bakula there is right at the top left. Looks like the green line goes off the edge of the map. It does not. It just connects with one of those little islands over on the west side of Scotland. Apparently, is a 6,000 foot long runway here at Ben Bakula. I've never been, so we're going to go there now. The ICAO is right there, Echo Golf Papa Lima. So we'll have to see if that is indeed the case. Who knows?
Okay. All doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
Fantastic. Yeah, and this aircraft, again, cutting the frame rate in half. I hope they sort that a little bit. I mean, it's not horrific, but it's not great either. Put the beacon light on. Put the signs on for what it's worth. There's no passengers, but do they use the signs even though there's no passengers? I don't know. I mean, there may be like relief crew in the back that need to know. Maybe it's just more like a notification between members, like, one ding means we're ready, 2 ding means we're not, 3 dings means get your ass up here quick, summit's the matter. I don't know. I'm guessing there's some sort of internal code. Defog, let's...
Connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Oh yeah, of course, the all of this is automatic. I remember that now. I really liked the automation on all of these systems, your fuel, your pack, your electronics. And if you want to do anything yourself, you've got to go manual first and then start tinkering, and otherwise you just go like that and it takes care of everything, which I think is really clever. Alright, let's release the brakes then. Are these screens on as bright as they'll go? They're just feeling like they need to be a bit brighter. Don't forget windscreen heat. I will take a look as soon as we've got the engines running. I'm not sure how much the APU can handle power wise, and I'm trying to find a little dial to adjust how bright the screens are, and I'm not seeing the wood for the trees. Could it be? Oh, that's better. There we go. Let's I'm still not seeing the dial for the screens. I assume they're at full brightness, but I'm just guessing at this point. You know what? I'll worry about it once we're in the flight. Everybody's waiting. Let's release the brakes.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Go on then. Push. What's he waiting for? Push. Finally. I guess this little door here is for the APU, although I don't know, but it looks kind of wide open for just anyways. I'm guessing it's for the APU. Engines are rotating, that's because of the wind. And this guy, oh, I remember this, the better pushback. He's not able to steer the nose wheel. You can see he's trying, but the plane's just going back. So I'm going to use the nose wheel myself, the tiller. And indeed, all right, so his steering pin that supposedly stops you from being able to steer the plane is clearly not implemented. He's slipping and sliding everywhere, so I'm just moving the nose tiller a little bit to try and give him what he seems like he's asking for. I mean, we want to be down there anyway, but, you know, if I just let go of the tiller and let it be straight, you can see here, this is just ridiculous. And so I'm just going to try and help him out a little bit. A bit more. Come on. There we go. And while he's wrestling with that, let's come over here. Let's use System A today. A-OK. Packs shut off automatically, just like the Airbus. I mean, this is a lazy pilot's aircraft for sure. I can't remember on this if you... I think you turn them all on and then press the start switch. I'll have to see if I can even remember where the start... Oh, it's this orange one. Do you know what? I'm going to turn them all on, and we'll start with number 2. I'm not sure. I'm sure there is a
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
I'm sure there is a specific order that gets your hydraulics up and running quick. I really like this parking brake handle. It's a very satisfying clunk.
Connecting toes. Stand by.
Jolly good show. Engine slowly coming up. And again, it's auto start. It's not like the Boeing where you got to wait. And N2 is it 24? Put the fuel in. Does it all. We'll give him the signals. I assume we could do crossbleed start with number 2. I'm not going to risk it just in case. We've still got the emergency power fail there. I don't think we're going to let go of that caution. We'll just ignore it.
Cell is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Let's press it one more time. Let go. That's going to stay there. Alright, he's disappeared. Let's start number 3. And on this, it surprised me that you couldn't do a dual engine start even when you've got the APU and a single engine on. It's just one at a time and that's it. I did find that a little... I don't know, I guess it really is like that, but just unusual. I mean, what really surprised me about the Fearless is that the APU can only start one engine, but once you've got that engine running and the APU, you can start all 3 off the bleed of just that, so kinda weird. Next to the start switches, I'll find the screen brightness. Thank you very much, Pedro, there. We'll see. Oh, yeah. I see, yeah, so by default they're all max. Thank you very much. I wouldn't have found those because I just at a glance they look like... Oh shit. Whoops. Oh, thank goodness we didn't have that engine started. At a glance they just look like the radio volume switches, don't they? You know, the yeah, thank you. I would not have seen that. So we've got engines 2 and 3 up running. Let's start number 1. The guy downstairs has disappeared. There's an auxiliary hydraulic pump switch next to the auto brakes. And do I need it when I've got the engines running? Next to the auto brakes. If I remember where auto brakes are, they on the roof? Everybody's auto brakes is somewhere different. Oh, here, I see. Yeah, on, of course, the anti-skid seems to be on by default. The auxiliary hydraulic pump. Yeah, so I guess we could put hydraulics into the hydraulic pressure without the engines running if we need to use the brakes or whatever without starting the engines. I assume that's what that is. Can we actually pressure it up a bit more? I guess that's it. Nah, not needed. How's the Discord server doing? Hardly. I've been messing around with it. I'm by no means an expert on Discord. Yeah. Becoming soon. I don't want to go into specifics on it, but there's just one little concern that I have that I'm going to look at addressing, and then as soon as I've got that out of the way, yeah, you'll be first to hear about it. Alright, trim setting for takeoff. Stab, we see there. Oh, stab trim, same thing, right? 6.8, I mean, is it the same thing? We know what we mean, but it's actually an entirely different thing. A stab is the entire stabilizer versus just the trim, which of course could be anything from just the spring that helps you hold the lever. 6.8, and we have 3, so pulling the stabs back. And yeah, I've shown this before, but some people don't know, and so it's worth showing again. When the pilot moves his control column back and forward, he only actually moves the back bit there, which in this case is, well, it's not quite half, is it? So perhaps a little over a third. The stab, or the stabilizer, is the entire thing. And if you look carefully here, you can see it can move, and we need to move it back. So as I'm holding the trim, if we zoom in, you see it moves kind of slow. But if there's... Oh, so forgive me there, my cat just jumped off my lap. She's getting bored of it and wants to run around. Yeah, so as I move the stabilizer there, you can just about see it if you look at one of these screws. The entire thing. And that's why the runaway stab is so dangerous, because yeah, the pilot retains control of this bit at the back, but the entire thing has, well, run away, right? He loses control of it. And that was kind of similar to what downed a couple of the 737 Maxes. I mean, it wasn't technically a runaway stab, but it was the same thing. The autopilot was issuing the command to get the stabilizer all the way over, I think in the down position, and the captains were there pulling the stabilizer up with their switches, and they were unable to overcome what the autopilot was doing, and it was driving these planes into the ground. There are cutout switches there to turn them off, but in the heat of the moment, I guess these crew were just not up to it. All right, with that little done, stabilizer in place, we're using dialer flap 18.4 because we can. That is the reason why. And so flaps 0, which is your slats, and then dialer flap. I like that. On this one, it's flaps 0 and then flaps up. They're two different settings, and I guess I still don't understand why they just don't say, and this is all aircraft, flaps up or 0, same thing, and then number 1 would be, it would just either say 1 like the Airbus or like the Boeing 73, or it would just say slats. We know that there's no flaps coming out, it's the slats only, but to say up and 0 as two different settings, alright, you're going to know what it means if you sit in this plane all day every day, but you know, there's going to be some people that look up that and think, well, hang on, isn't this the same thing? Well, no. One's flaps and one's is slats. Well, I think we're good to go. I really like the flight control check on this. Is it automatic? Well, we're going to see. Probably I'm thinking no, and it isn't. So let's get that on. Where are we here? Config. Is it status page? No, maybe it was the config. Yeah, there we go, config. So here's the aircraft, and what I really like about this is when you're doing the flight control checks, not only do you see the animations, which is, you know, you see that in all aircraft, but you get this little green symbol when the flight controls are fully deflected. So for example, if I stand on the rudder, yeah, you see it moving a bit, but if I put my foot fully down, of course you should see it green to say it's all the way over. And so if you put your foot fully down and you don't see it green, you know right away, well, it's moving a little bit but not fully, so there's a problem. And I just think it's such an obvious little thing. I don't understand why they don't have that anymore in modern aircraft. So up, neutral, down, neutral, and rolling all the way over. And it also looks like they've got the little flapper on thing going here, which I guess on the two wingtips there signifies it's a fly-by-wire style aircraft. Slats, we've got our tyre pressures, tyre brake temperatures, all basically reading outside air temperature, which is what you'd expect. But in Dortmund, there is a museum called the DASA Deutsche Arbeitssuchtausstellung. Really great, should visit. They have a section for planes only with terminal and a cockpit sim. That sounds interesting. Yeah, Dortmund. I landed at Dortmund. My only history there was I was flying to Frankfurt once as a kid, and on the way. And I've got throttle 1 and 3. I don't have throttle 2. Can we use multi-throttle to make this work? Please. No, I may, based on that, just real quickly, apologies for this. I'm going to have to set my throttle to just control all 3 engines, because I've only, as you can see, got two throttle levers then. So the way around that is to just do it like that. All right, let's begin taxi. Let's release the brakes. Let's come up top and let everybody know with the turn-offs that we're coming. Do we have a taxi light? Yes, we do. Here we see slats on front. That wasn't too bad a guess. I had no idea where I was going, but I just knew we had to turn left. Yeah, so I was flying to Frankfurt as a kid, and there was really bad weather, socked in with fog. And again, I'm like 7 years old flying alone, because back then you could fly by yourself. I think from the age of 3, you know, obviously you'd have a stewardess or whatever take you from check-in to the plane. Stewardesses would keep an eye on you, and same again at the far end until you got picked up. And so this is happening to me, and I'm like 7 years old. And then, of course, the plane halfway there, well, we can't land at Frankfurt. It's socked in with fog, or whatever the weather was. And so everything was getting diverted. And I was getting diverted to Dortmund as this little 7-year-old that now didn't have a clue what was going on, that was now going to be getting bussed in from Dortmund to Frankfurt. And my grandparents at that point, you know, it was before the internet and everything, of course, nobody had a clue what was going on. All that they knew was that this plane had been diverted. They didn't know, do they need to wait there? Do they need to go to Dortmund? Of course, there was no communication. And my granddad, me uppers, getting frustrated, starting to get a little animated with some of the airport staff. And then this little kid comes running along. And it's me. Yeah, I don't know now what the minimum age, you know, to fly by yourself without any sort of accompaniment. But back then, yeah, from a very young age, you could fly by yourself. Again, say fly by yourself. The stewardesses were with you. It was, but in terms of family and friends, now you could just, they drop you off at the gate like parents that were trying to get rid of their kid for the holidays. And that's what man did, right? They just wanted rid. Oh shit, the holidays are coming, we best book him a flight to Germany. Of course, I loved going anyway. And it was back when you could sit in the cockpit for takeoff and landing, if you asked nicely. And they always did. There was one time that a guy told me no, and he had a trainee pilot with him, which was probably why he said no. And every other time they let me. Thank you very much for those recommendations there, Hadley. I will certainly visit them if I ever do get to go. My girlfriend's not really, she likes traveling, but around the UK, and we really like camping, you see, and it's a kind of a cheap thing to do as well. And so, you know, we go camping about 10 times a year. But yeah, there'd be no reason why we couldn't camp in Germany. And so everything set to go. And again, our flight plan is going to be runway heading and then direct to Barton. We need to change this back to the map view. Initial climb 6,000. I guess there's Victor Alpha 1. We'll take this one here. Tell you what, this aircraft on idle really does like to run. Let's get rid of the APU bleeds. And is that going to turn it off? We've still got APU power on, and I did press it. I'm just thinking... Who knows? We'll take another look at that. The APU bleeds off. That's the main thing. Emergency power check fail. We, you know, that was my fault for bleeding the battery. Now I'm sure there's a takeoff. Or is it like the Boeing?
Spoiler.
It is like the Boeing. You've got to move the throttles. Okay, so spoilers. There we go. What about now? Looks like a pass. Okay. MC is what it is. We've got the green bar. Let's light up. We've been cleared for takeoff, so we'll put the lights, the flashy lights on. We'll start the turn and landing lights. Great. APU shuts down when the bleeds are off. Great. So that should, in theory, turn itself off. The little extendy landy lights here by the stairs. Lufthansa Cargo, runway 23 left, clear for takeoff. Have a good flight. Thank you very much. Clear for takeoff. All right, with that, we'll put the nose light onto there. Auto flight 1, press, wind up the engines, start the clock, as I always forget, but not today. Thrust stable, let's hit it. How far do I need to move the engines? I guess we're there. Flex 53, 97.3. We're there. We're stable. There's 80. Oh, stay on the rudder. Oh my goodness, she's wanting to rotate already. V1. Or at least felt like it. There's rotate. I'm letting go. She's rotating by herself. So some of the weights or the stab trim was off. 10, 15 wheels up. And I'm going to follow the flight directors at least for now. Trimming forward. I don't know why the stab trim was so far off. We were rotating at V1. I had to push the column back down. And finally got it, I think. And let's vector ourselves on in then to Barton. So I'm going to roll manually. A bit more. Something like that. And auto flight now, does it have it? I guess it does now. I forgot to pull the stop out there. My bad. Let's go with a level change. So we're not yet on profile. Oh, I tell you what, I'm not liking how aggressive it's trying to climb. Do we not have the equivalent of... Need a bit of practice with this one, don't I? Certainly on the non-managed departures there. I didn't want to connect to SID. I wanted to try without, regardless. Now, flight plan. Let's just go... Where are we here? Direct to...
Altitude.
Barton. Click, is that it?
Stabilizer motion.
Nav. There we go. We've got it on Barton. Let's clear ourselves up to 12. There we go. Oh, I like how it auto changes over to intervals of 5. Let's bring in the flaps. Slats only.
Stabilizer motion.
She's doing okay now. Roll the VS wheel. I think, did I have that? Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm just using level change, or what would be open climb, by pulling. Depends whether you're talking to Airbus or Boeing, right? But by that going up like a rocket. Again, we were nowhere near max weight. Look at that VS, man. Coming up to 10,000. Let's speed up then, and we'll clear all the way. What was our cruise? I forget. Let me check the flight plan real quick. Page 1. It was 36. Let's bring the slats in as well. Come on, you can do it. It's do I have to pull it every time I change my speed? Do I have to pull to let the autopilot know that's the speed? it would seem. Okay, so you can't just change it and that's it. So you've got to pull it and then wait. So let's go for, I don't know, let's go for about 310. That's going to be a nice, good climb. Yeah, so you got to pull it, and then I see the speed is updating in here. Still climbing like shit off a shovel. So we're through Barton, we're through Croft nearly. That's 7-8 miles to go, and then Vameb. If we push this out, there's the end destination already inside about 300 miles. We're well above point where we changed, so we're going to pull that to standard. Yeah, so I think I'm going to manage the speed based on advice myself. Now, why is this on AP2? There we go. Now it's my side, AP1. I realise one slight oversight. Tara, I'm not online, but regardless. And I know the thing is now, VATSIM, it does this for you automatically. So you don't even need to think about it. But I don't like that they automated that. I think it should still be the pilot's job. Let's have a little look at the weather, see if that's... I can't recall if they'd implemented that before or not. Let's point the thing downhill. Well, if they did, I'm not seeing it. I do see the weather here, tilt down -7. So it knows that I'm pointing the antenna around, but climbing real nice now. We'll let anybody that may be around know. Oh no, yeah, landing lights. Nose lights. I'm forgetting too much here. I'm sort of more... Look at this thing going now. There's something about it not being entirely... I can't explain it properly, but I'm sure some of you'll know. If you have some aircraft like the Zebo, the Tolis, that basically fly at 60 frames or nearly, 50, 60 frames, and then you come into one like this and it drops it down to like 30 frames. There's something about that slight reduction in frame rate that makes everything a little bit harder to do. I can't quite explain it better than that, but it's somehow the frame rate, I don't know exactly when that happens, when it drops through 40 frames, who knows, but there's something about it. Coming up to 73, 74% the speed of sound, and here, look at this, the nose having to be dumped. We're quite a ways off our cruise, and I guess, I don't know, we're dealing with a 50 knot headwind. That's going to be partially explaining why we're climbing so quick. Why are we stopping at 27? I didn't dial it all the way to 36, that's why. And does it change to 36? So that's weird. So this one does change all the way by itself. I don't got to pull it again. But the speed, every time I change that, I do have to pull it. And I think I'm going to change to Mac. Can we just do that now? There we go. Oh, and I like the extra digit. I really like that. So it's not just Mac 75, 74, 76, but we can get more precise here. So let's go for 755 just because we can. Weather push. Okay, there, perhaps that's what was missing before. Let's try that again. Thank you, SimStream. I didn't see it. Set that back to weather. Let's point it down. And we're almost sure to see something pointing it down about 12 degrees. And yeah, there we are, just clear. It doesn't seem to be very much going on, but if you look real carefully, if I zoom in, you can see there are some green squares atop of the otherwise black, and then of course the sunlight ruins it. But look at this rate of climb, 9,000 feet a minute. What the hell? Oh my goodness, the autopilot has taken it up at 9.7 thousand feet a minute on a Mach 7.5 climb, and it's maintaining the speed at Mach 7.5 and all. Oh my goodness. It's eased off a bit now, but that bit there was I've never seen an autopilot take what is basically an airliner in Xplane up at what is 300 feet off 10,000 feet a minute climb without any shenanigans. It wasn't like we were gaming the autopilot to do something insane. It was a level change on a Mach hold. We'd already reached Mach 7.5. We were just changing usings. I've never seen that. To me, Rotate need to get that shit sorted. That's ridiculous, is that. I'm not sure what went wrong from there. You know, whether the pilot knows what he's doing or not, the aircraft should not be able to climb at 10,000 feet a minute. We were already at like 30,000 feet. You wouldn't even get 10,000 feet a minute down at sea level. All right, let's see, Mach 7.9. All right, this is starting to grow on me a little bit, that you can dial in your speed and then pull it. Let's go for 799. And that looks like it's going to be about 260 knots indicated. What is the frame rate now? So it's still not great, even though we're away from the city. Again, it does slice it in half. There seems to be not real benefit, and I'm not sure. Do any of you know, is this gear handle up and down, or is there an off position in the middle? If anybody knows, you know, let us know. Otherwise, I'm not going to risk it, and I'm going to leave it in the up position. Let's have a look upstairs then. Is everything here? No light, no... cabin pressure. Everything off, auto off, you know, Airbus, right? The dark cockpit principle. Which makes sense, right? Because then if something does start lighting up and you'll see it in corner of your eye, even if it's just a minor, well, I don't know, just a minor something, it's going to draw your attention to it when everything should be off. If you've got like 50 lights up there, whether you've got 50, 49 or 51 is not really going to be obvious. So cruising at 36, and we should be making our way towards our destination real quick. And because of that, we're going to start looking at it. Looks like it's about 200 and a little bit miles away. So let's have a look. Again, never been to this place. Ben Bakula. Never even heard of it, which is what... I don't get that. I mean, somewhere that's got a 6,000 foot runway that's can't be more than 300 miles from where I live, by the name of Ben Bakula. I don't get how I've not heard of it. So let's look it up. So it's EGPL. Just up, down for gear. Thank you, SimStream. Glad that there's somebody here that knows what they're doing. Yeah, so you can tell right off the bat it's a small airport. Looking at this, we've got the airport page and then everything blank apart from the approach page. And that's always the bare minimum on Navigraph or Jeppesen, where they get it from, right? So airport page, and yeah, I did pick it because it does have a 6,000 foot runway. The flight plan puts us on runway 24. So swinging in for this one, which is going to be 239. So we'll have to see. Do we have ATIS on this one? Apparently 1395. I know we're going to be out of range for now, but no harm in tuning it in. I don't think we can go down to 13, can we? No, it's 18. Do we have anything else? Maybe Ben Bakula information 19205. We'll try that. 19205. Just check I recall that right here. Well, we'll see if it picks anybody up. Turn it on. Failing that, I don't think this thing has a data link per se, but we'll have a look. What do we have? Menu. CFDS not allowed. Route maintenance and standby nav radios. Okay, so no data link, at least not yet. Old aircraft, wouldn't expect it really, but you never know. Takeoff approach. Doesn't have the length in. I don't know why. Maybe because we haven't yet selected a runway. I think that's probably a good excuse. We'll see. Well, what does the chart say with regards to our weather? Ben Bakula, winds 220 at 11, and this was issued at 20 past 1 today, so just under 2 hours ago, when visibility clear, few clouds at 5, scattered at 1,000, temperature 9, dew point 8, so potentially some rain on the cards, and we see that is even put down here for later on after basically 12 o'clock. QNH 1022. I'm going to put that. Can we put that here without upsetting our primary? Let's see. We can. So I'm just going to put 1022 down there to remind me. If we do hear ATIS on the radio, we'll go with what they say. If we don't get ATIS, we'll go with this. So winds 220 at 11. That is going to explain our runway 24. So this one here, 239. Let's see then, what approaches do we have to choose from? Well, VORs or NDBs. I did want to do the NDB. I wanted to just do one because these approaches are dying out fast. You log in a year or two, you won't find an NDB anywhere, maybe somewhere in the back end of Russia, but everywhere else they're just deleting NDBs left, right and center at the minute. All the approaches are changing. If you're into this sort of stuff, VORs and NDB style approaches, get them in, because you know, if it isn't ILS'd up already, the RNPs are taking over, and you know, I don't think there's going to be anything else in a year or two. It's dying really, really fast. I've just noticed in the last 6 to 12 months, I've just noticed shed loads of approaches getting deleted and just replaced with, you know, where there isn't an ILS, it's RNP, and that's basically it. You know, we got the odd VOR beaten, but NDBs are just getting deleted everywhere. So, and by deleted, I mean, you know, physically ripped out the ground in real world. And when that happens, you know, all the charts get updated, and then we lose them in the sim as well. So, get that stuff in while you can. Yeah, so here we go. Ben Bakula, a little one of the Scottish islands. I say little, it can't be that little with a runway this big, but NDB 401 and VOR. As well as, what's this? Just a local. I didn't recall seeing an ILS. VORs, okay, so we got VOR and VOR DME. They're two separate things, it would seem. DME, of course, being the distance measuring. So let's have a look. Ben. Well, it's kind of weird to have two, to me, seem like two VORs on top of each other. I guess one of them doesn't have DME, but yet, look here. Ben and BCL are both listed here with a distance. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Procedure not available without DME. I'm thinking of grabbing one of these. Let's go with this one. Actually, our second destination, Stornoway. I just want to check EGPO. Just to see where the NDB, in case there isn't one up there, I'm going to have to do it here. Approach. No, they have an NDB, so NDB at the end. Going to do the VOR one here. And yeah, so Ben and B, everything is based on off both Ben and BCL. We'll see who we pick up first. It looks like 1395 in bold. I'm guessing that's the one they ideally want us to use. Who knows? Can anybody explain this? I've never seen this like this before. What look like two VOR beacons atop of each other, and both of them appear to have, at least at first glance, DME. Bizarre. Oops, 13, so let's try the 1395. Well, we're picking this guy up just 188. Let's put a bit more on the spit. How far can we go to get to that? Tell you what, that's pretty fast. 88. We're in the pole at 89. 89.5. That's actually really fast for an airliner. Let's go at 8. Let's go for 876. Just the numbers run nicely. Yeah, so Benbecula 1395. My plan is then, we know we're approaching from the southeast. We'll grab one of these. Do we have an exact? It's going to be about 55 or 60 degrees off by the look of it. We'll see. Map. Suppit. Is that listed here at all? It sounds like something you'd use for an RNAV. I'm not seeing it. Wondered if there was any detail on it if you zoomed right in, but apparently not. Looks like a nice day. Alright, I realised I could just rig it up with an RNAV and fly it down, and it's just, to me, it's just a boring way of doing it. I want to be a bit more creative. 160. DME says 172, which I guess is about there. Set this to a more respectable for the descent, about a degree or two down. Alright, listen in, here's the plan. We're going to come in from this direction. We're not looking to intercept specifically one of these points, but we're just looking to intercept this DME arc. Arc Ben. Ben's the one we're tuning in, Benbecula, not to be confused with BCL. And so that's going to give us a 12 DME arc. And we'll roll with it from there. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I must have had, I don't know, I'm trying to think, right? Before Christmas, again, I just had my DCS channel, which is separate, and I thought, you know, occasionally I want to stream other games, but I can't really do it on the DCS channel because people are just there for DCS. So I started, every time I just felt like playing on the computer, I would just think, do you know, I'm going to share this game, and then if anybody's interested, come watch it, and if they're not, well, they don't have to. And some people may be interested either in a game or like in Xplane, they're interested in the plane maybe, or how to do something in the plane, or maybe just what's the plane look like. I don't have it. I realise there's people that push it, but what about somebody that's just, you know, cruising around in one? What does he think? And so that's what the channel was created for, but I never really did anything, again, until about a month or two ago. And if you look, a couple of months ago, it had about literally 5 or 6 subscribers, maybe 10. I don't know, it wasn't many. And I just start, you know, every time I'm playing something that's not DCS, I'm going to stream. And somehow, it's gone from 10 to, you know, 200 or whatever it is. You know, so I'm glad that some people somewhere enjoy it, and clearly looking at the views, they enjoy some things more than others, which is why I try and separate the different games into different playlists. So if somebody's only into Forged Alliance, you know, I like commentating on that. Somebody's only into flight sims, you know, that's over there. Somebody's just into, you know, management style games. You know, I'll separate it all off, and then people can do what they want. And for whatever reason, up to a point, it seems to be working, and so I'm glad people like it, and we'll see what happens if it keeps growing. I don't know what it said. I looked at the stats the other day. It was something like 300% growth in the last month. Well, if it can keep growing at 300%, by the end of the year, I might have 1 million subscribers, I guess. Month on month on month, 300%, we'll see. Although I very much doubt it. Be very happy if we can get to 1,000. Grew my other one from 0 to 1,000. It took me about 2 or 3 months to do. It was a lot of effort, mine, to go from 0 to 1,000. Of course, at 1,000 you can monetize it. Although I didn't. I waited until I had 2, and I only monetized it then because I realized, hang on, people are seeing adverts on my channel and I haven't monetized it. What's that about? And then I found out, oh well, YouTube at some point changed something. So you see adverts even on channels that aren't monetized. And so I thought, right, if people are seeing adverts anyway, I may as well monetize it and get some of it back. And so that's what I did. And that's a weird sort of thing. And with this channel, the thing is, when you monetize it, all of a sudden you start worrying about, what's the engagement on this going to be like? You know, not just how many views, but how long are people going to watch for? Then you spend time, I've got to design the thumbnail a certain way, and I've got to pull again, I never pull funny faces, but you know what I'm talking about, the YouTube videos where people pull funny faces, because if they don't, you know, they get half as many views for the same video, which is bizarre. I said to myself, if I have to pull faces, it just feels like I'm being dishonest, and so just not something I'm gonna do. And I know some people don't care less, they'll do anything. In any case, we're getting close, and at this point here, what's the MSA? 3-1, and so I assume I can dial this down to 10, and we're not going to go anywhere until I pull it. I hope that's the case. Let's find out. 10. That was the quickest way I've ever gone down to 10,000. From me first saying it to spinning the wheel to it getting there was about 2 seconds. Which, again, there's certain things about this module that I really like. And the way that the controls are implemented is one of them. I like the one-click window controls that make it nice and easy to open and close that. This thing seems completely pointless. Look at it. Like, that's not blocking out. I mean, all right, they've put it there, but to what point? Does it move anywhere else? Yeah, that's going to help you when the sunlight's blinding it. It changes the brightness by like 1%. Never mind. We'll put it there just so that it looks like we mean business when we got one of them there. Would like to see some settings for the aircraft that let you tinker around with how much reflection and sunlight and screen glow, because in the shade it looks really good. In the sunlight, you know, it's an effect, but you know, the flight factor lets you customize this to the nth degree. Even the TOLIS, you know, how much the screen glow, the reflections and the sunlight, you know, there's like 3 different settings there and they let you change them all. If I could dry fly steer a vehicle from a fictional universe, which universe would it be? E.g. Star Wars, Star Trek, Star Troopers, etc. Well, it would have to be, and this is going to sound like a cop-out of an answer, it would have to be the Starship Enterprise Next Generation, because after that it went from... started to get silly, and then the story went away from exploring space to exploring same-sex marriages and stuff, which has got naught to do with Star Trek. I don't know why they have to ruin it. In any case, before I dig myself any further down that hole, Starship Enterprise, the way it was with the crew there, you know, Captain John Lute and Commander Riker, and of course the holodeck. And I'm sure I'd be one of those, like that Lieutenant Barclay. Do you remember the weirdo? And he would always go down to the holodeck and have all these fantasies down there. That would be me. And I guess I'm doing the same thing in a very early version of the holodeck here, which is, you know, I can hear it, I can see it, but I can't smell it, I can't taste it. And when the plane wobbles in the turbulence, I don't feel it. But that's coming. That's coming. And when it does, we'll all have our holodecks, and I'm sure it's a place we'll all spend the time in, because if we go outside and we see unemployment and the craziness and drug addicts everywhere and crime and weirdos running countries that appear like they're doddery old men that don't know what day of the week it is and yet somehow in charge of the most powerful nation on earth, and we think, sod this, I'm off back inside to where my holodeck is and I'm going to make it nice and I'm sure we're only a few short years away from basically loads of people doing that. I mean, they already are to an extent, right? And it's just called playing on whether it's PC, Mac, console, everybody's, or on their phone even, and tablet. I mean, come on, there's games galore and people are playing them. Thousands of players on any which game at any time, sometimes in the millions, man. I mean, you look how many people play Grand Theft Auto and how many have put thousands of hours into that. You're talking billions of hours of just one game, man. It's insane. Yeah, the holodeck. You know, and whether it's a room or whether it's a chip that goes in your head that makes it feel like you're in a room, who knows? But either way, I guarantee you it's coming. And then that brings me back to the, how do you know you're not already in one? Well, I just know. Well, how? Well, I'd have remembered walking into it if I was in one now. Okay, what if when you walked into the holodeck, as part of the program, it made you forget that you walked into the holodeck and the beginning of your journey in the holodeck was to basically spawn, if we're going to use that word, inside a baby's avatar that just sits there going gaga and doesn't know anything, and then, oh, here's your world and your parents. And some people think, that's just crazy shit, I can't deal with that. And some people are going to think, yeah, how would you know? Like, how would you know the difference? And if you can answer me, how would you know the difference? Then you've either studied quantum mechanics and that lot, and if you haven't, and you just think it's crazy, stupid talk, then I guess you've not even looked into quantum. Not that that's a criticism, I never looked into it until about 10 years ago. And yeah, if you look into it and the observer effect and all that shit, the double slit experiment, you start and realise there's a chance we may already be in some sort of a holodeck. And that is a really long answer to your question of which ship in what universe. There you go. Yeah, exactly, Simstream. You don't watch Trek from 25 onwards, it's not Trek. That's, my thoughts on the entire thing. And they've destroyed everything like that. Some people say they destroyed it because they just didn't know better, or they're pushing some weird agenda. Star Wars, the last three, all the fans said it was a disaster. Star Trek, same way. Doctor Who, same thing happened. Endless shows that people really enjoyed from way back when were being ruined. And I can't tell you how many things I've seen on Netflix that start really good, and then as it goes from season 1 to season 2, well, it's alright, I want to see what happens. And then by halfway through season 3, you're thinking, what the hell has this turned into? It's a ridiculous thing. Like, the first season was brilliant, and by season 3, it's like, what the hell happened to this? And so it feels like the same thing, but with that said, I'm going to power back, slow down, ran over, let's resume to flying the Mad Dog here, down to 10, and I'm going to pull it, which I guess is our, what are they calling it, idle clamp. We're going to call it open descent or level change. Engines back to idle, which I guess is idle clamp, right? Down we go. Oh yeah, forget, you got to pull this. It's a weird thing, is that. So let's pull it. Mach 85 as opposed to 87. And I think once we intercept, I don't know, about 310 knots indicated, we'll switch over from Mach to airspeed. At least that's my plan. Zooming in, we're getting in close, 80 miles. Yes, up at the final destination. I need to start thinking how we're going to convert from managed nav mode to VOR here. VOR, I'm going to tune it in on both sides. And then we'll take a look at headings. So if we're coming in on what looks like 315, 316, if we were to back out the other way 180 degrees, that's going to be about, quick, there would be 180, 190, 200, 210, 220, 225-ish. What am I talking about? 90, 100, 110, 120, 130. I should really be better at this. 135 is the reciprocal behind me. So I'm going to, if we take a look at the 135-ish radial, we'll see if that appears. We'll do that on, hang on, do we have to put the, I assume the slash, because we've got the frequency as well. There we go. Yeah, so we're right on that radial, 135. Perhaps another degree, 136. There we go. We're basically on the money there. Now, if I hit VOR low, is it going to take me up the 136 radial, which is, I guess, 316 degrees, or is it going to try and spin me round? Let's find out. Oh, I guess, how do we do that? Nav is surely LNAV. How do I fly VOR? Well, I guess I put it on VOR mode. I'll tell you what, with this arrow pointing behind me, yeah. Let's just be safe. 316 degrees, there we go. Arrows in front. VOR page is selected. If I hit VOR, is it going to go accordingly? Let's find out. Nav, still says Nav 1. Is there any way to fly? There's got to be a way to fly a VOR on using the autopilot. Otherwise, we'll pull it. And we're now on heading mode. Whoops. Mach IAS 340. I wanted to do that about 320, but you know what? We'll take 330. And I'm not going to use the nav mode now. We're doing VOR on this one, old school, even though there doesn't seem to be an autopilot to bring us in. So we're going to look at this. We can, I guess, cheat and glance at the ND using your side, but I'm going to use this one. And turn begins at 12, no lower than 3.1. Any speed restrictions? There's an awful lot of bump on the screen there. No speed restriction jumping out at me, so we'll go with a 250 at 10 as normal, and then we'll just roll it in from there. Missed approach is... Interestingly, refer to above. Normally they have the basics there. Climb straight ahead to 17 and then a right-hander back to the VOR direct 3.1 and then I guess hold to 3 up to the MSA. So this way 17 right-hand direct back to the VOR. So easy. Procedure not available without DME. Must not be continued if the DME is not received. So I guess if you start losing signal, you can't continue. Thankfully we have it. VOR 1 and 2, there we go. I didn't realise that. That's pretty cool. VOR 1 and 2. So we've got, I guess can we put arrows onto the ND then as well? Yeah, we can. Well, we'll stick with the VOR page just because it adds a little bit of a challenge that we don't otherwise have. But we'll keep these on here. I guess this is just going to repeat what we see here. There we see it copied on your side. I guess if our VOR receiver should go down and yours is still there, who knows? Seems a bit pointless, but anyway. More colours on the screen. Ah, it's taken a long time to level change. Look at this. We're at 330 knots. We're only dropping by about 1,800 feet a minute. We're 41 miles away. I'd ideally like to be at 12,000 now, not at 21. I do like this little thing from Rotate. So where I'm physically moving my levers are the orange ghosts, so you can line your levers up if they don't connect. And I realize I didn't disarm the speed brake. There we go. Oh, and the auto brake as well, so this isn't automatic. You've got to turn that off again. I'm getting lazy. Thinking this is more Boeing but Airbus, but of course it's older Airbus. So the auto brake lever more like Boeing in that you've got to turn it off. The spoilers, I guess you got to disarm even on the newer ones. So I'm just looking for excuses where there are any. I guess it's too bright to realise what this does, but it's got a funky effect on the top of the dial. Look at that. Who knows what's going on there? Yeah, time, I think, to put the boards out. 1, 2, and full. I'm criticising that the McDo or the flight management computer brings you in hot and high, and then I'm doing exactly the same thing. How's our, what's the thing doing? Reckons, what? Estimate time of arrival inside 5 minutes. Well, that's never happening. 26 miles away. We're never going to get down to where we need to, so I'm going to have to throw the heading off and intercept this radial from a little further around. I guess the maximum angle here, based on this terrain potentially, is 149. degrees, which is about 330. So we can maneuver a little bit further over to the left. I guess I could just do some gentle S-turns as well. Well, we're going to be at 10, almost, well, look at that, 6.3 thousand. Those are some massively effective spoilers, man. We went from, what was it, 1.7, 1.8 thousand feet to 6,000. Power going up, well, we don't want that. We'll let it slow down now to 240. Pull. There's 10,000. Continuing to leave the boards out. S-turn to the right. And yeah, look what looks like some of the islands here. So we got water here, but I can just about make out a few little islands. Maybe the Scottish mainland over off to the right. And finally we're slowed down. Let's fold the boards away. Discontinuity ahead. Well, we're on heading mode anyway, so let's continue back direct towards, was about there, and we'll descend down to the MSA. I'm going to pull that just to get the open descent going. 3.1, that's set. Yeah, so moving towards this VOR, and we got to begin this turn. Oh, I forgot to turn my icon off at 12 DME. Well, we're right there. Got about half a mile to go. I'm feeling like I'm going to need the boards again. There's 12, and so we need to throw it off by 90 degrees. And then ride the 10 DME arc. I'll slow it down. Everything's coming too quick now. Takeoff approach. Hang on, did we even put one in? We never actually put one in. Star, there's going to be none. We're just coming straight in. I'm not even going to put a procedure in. It's runway 24. 24. Insert. Runway 24. There's 10 DME. We're right on the money. Perfectly. That turn couldn't have been any better. We're right on. I can't believe that. So we'll ride the arc now. 15 degrees at a time. Takeoff. Speed, everything here. Flaps. Well, 35. I'm going to go flaps. Let's go flap 50. It's going to be more drag. We need the drag. It's a short runway, 6,000. The other one's going to be even less. Auto brake. Is that on the ceiling or is it down? Oh, yeah, it's down here. We'll go auto brake. What we got? 1, 2, 3. We'll go auto brake medium. And we need to keep this arc going. What's the problem now? Auto brake off.
Stabilizer motion.
Medium. Auto brake off. Why? I guess it's to do with the boards. Turn it off. Let's arm the boards. I know we had all that energy to release. There we go. That's now working. How are the arc going? Well, we're slightly far out still, but when do we have to turn in? At 067. I'm getting real busy here. 067. Well, we're coming up to it. There's 06. We've got about 20 degrees to go. Maybe 15. Still feel we're far too high. What was the height when we're up there? 2.2 now. Keep turn going. Bang, 2.2. Yeah, there's a lot more hands-on than just letting the entire autopilot manage you and fly it down the arc. So yeah, about 1.5 miles further away. And 06, well, it's on about 070. And it was 067, wasn't it? Yeah, obviously makes a huge difference not seeing your icon on top, which is what we want. And there we go, 06. It's on about 067 now. And so we'll turn in towards, which is 236. Let's put the slats out. Spoilers are armed. We're at 2.7. When can we descend lower? Well, the 3.26 degree down begins at 6.9 DME. And we're currently 10. Now let's set this up as well. Rad.
25.
Oops, where are we? Nav rad. Put the course in my side 236. So it looks like we've overshot it by more than some. There's 2.2. And we got the dialer flap here, which is the next one. Let's put a real little flap out of, I don't know, let's go for like 12 degrees. Reduce speed to 200. And we're in line now
Stabilizer motion.
with the DME. With the VOR. I'm getting confused. We're in line with the VOR. There's 7.4, and when was it exactly? It was at 6.9 we can begin. So that's basically now. Can we do a flight path angle? Oh, we can. Great. So it's 3.26. That's going to be about 3.3. Is that going down? It is. And if we miss, it's up to the 3.1 on the MSA. Gear down then. Flaps. I've been real busy. For the first time, we're going to look out the window. Runway not jumping out at me immediately. This would be a lot easier with a VOR low, but we don't have. Slow down. I want rid of the auto throttle. It's
Autopilot.
Surely this is not the runway. Oh, bloody, I was disconnecting there to shoot for that. It's a main road. I was going to say, because we're more or less on this radial where we should be. On a 3.2 degree flight path angle. It said 3.26, so I've disconnected now. It doesn't matter. Let's put a few more flaps out. I didn't set up the minimums either, but
1,000.
I guess we're getting close to them. What were they? Just out of interest. 300 and some. Oh, my autopilot isn't letting me have power.
Sync rate, sync rate, sync rate, sync.
5.
Runway in sight. There we go. We're dropping out more or less in front of it. Well, that wasn't too shabby at all. In fact, we got 2 white, 2 red by some miracle. I can't believe how well that worked out, considering
Minimum.
how crazy things got on the very end there.
200.
And I've never been here before, so there's that as well.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Oh. Well, that wasn't the smoothest landing ever. Oh shit, why is the end? Oh, it's a go around then. I never waited for... the terrible English. I didn't wait for the reversers to deploy. I put reverse in and powered on and it just went. So it's a go around. Flaps up, 1, wheels up. I'm not going to do the full procedure. It's just going to take too long. I mean, we need to be up ahead, then a right-hander to 3.1 and then set ourselves up. I'm just going to stay visual. The thing accelerates quick.
Landing gear.
set that up again.
Gear. Landing gear.
Have your gear.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
It's because I've got the flaps down further than whatever it is where the gears. It really wants the gear out, so I'm going to put the gear out.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
Let's see if I can do this again. I'm going to, this time, flare a bit more, bit harder. You need to move it a lot further than most aircraft, I have to say, on the flare. And then B, wait for the reversers to deploy before I start adding power into the reverse.
100.
Terrain. Hold up.
That's fine. The flap's 35,
Terrain,
so we've
terrain.
got one. Oh, there
Hold
is
up.
a bit of a hill here, isn't there?
Terrain.
Well,
Hold
we've
up.
got visual. Where's this? There we go. Well, at least I'm seeing a light over there. I assume that's the airfield. I tell you what, to hand fly, this feels really nice. It's a big plane. I mean, you can see by how far I'm moving the stick there and how long A, it's taken to respond to get going, and then B, once it is going, how quick or how slow it moves. It's a big plane, and I really, really like that. It feels, quote unquote, it feels right. And then someone's going to ask, have you ever flown an MD11? What? No. Never flown one. Technically landed my 737 once. There was that. I hit the autoland. That was moons ago. But no, never flown an MD11. Just a smaller aircraft. 3 white, 1 red. We're coming in. It's a sharp turn to final, but you know what? It makes it fun. To keep my eye out on the speed there. 9 knot headwinds, so we do have that. Let's go flaps full now.
100.
Sink rate.
Takes quite a long time for the engines to wind up, so don't idle your engines and then suddenly ask for power. You need to anticipate that and start putting power in early.
Sink rate. Sink rate. Sink.
10.
Oh my goodness, did that suddenly just drop out the sky? Oh my goodness, the bottom fell out on that one, good and proper. Right, we've unlocked the reversers. Surely now... Do you know what? I'm just going to stand on the pedal. Yeah, so you need to... There we go, we've got reverse now. So it takes a long time to get your reversers green. Don't put any power on until you do, otherwise it basically treats it as a go-around. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ben Bakula. And I think with that, I think I'm gonna leave the stream there. I was hoping to go to the other Scottish islands. I'm absolutely exhausted after that one. It was just such a handful at the end with those procedures and a lot of fun, but I just don't feel I've got anything left. And if I do it, then I'm wanting to do something else as well. Add a bit of power. Yeah, the spoilers go away by themselves, which is nice. We'll bring the flaps in. We'll just put her here. I think it's clearly not a mainstream. I didn't even put the lights on. Shh, don't tell anyone, they'll never know. Alright, so the APU then, not the external, APU power, APU bleed, and it can auto start. It's just something amazing about this alongside the dialer flap. 2 really nice features there of the Mad Dog. And I also, the parking brake handle is basically the best parking brake handle I've ever seen. I think, sometimes you've got this like tiny little switch and it's like the parking brake handle for a 747. And it's like that tiny little switch does so much. Whereas on this, there's much more of a definitive clunk and no guessing as to whether the brake's on or not. Now we'll see how long this thing takes to boot. I assume we can keep track of it through this device. Somehow is it on the status? No. Electric panel, maybe. No. Engine page. I guess it's an engine of sorts, right? And it is indeed. There it goes. ND panel. Well, EGT is stabilizing, so I guess that means that we're on, or we're going to be any moment. And there it is. It's on. And so with that, 3, 2, 1. By the way, I neglected to say this before, and I've been clicking the whole time. You can use your mouse wheel to move the switch in the direction that you want to move. That may seem obvious, and it is in some aircraft, but on this one, because the mouse click was doing it, I just assumed, well, they wouldn't have done the mouse wheel, but yeah, the mouse wheel does exactly what you'd think. So actually, that's a much quicker way of manipulating these switches rather than trying to, you know, get the mouse in the right position. Okay, I'll know that for next time. I have to say, overall, the Mad Dog is a brilliant aircraft. There's just a few performance features, you know. I don't know what went on with the climb, somewhere between 25 and 35,000 feet. Where that 10,000 foot a minute climb came from, I have no idea. Why the bottom suddenly fell out on the approach, also not really much of an idea. But other than that, brilliant aircraft, really enjoying it. And until next time, I hope you did too. Take care, everyone. Thank you, SimStream and Hardly Streams there. Both of you have got stream in your name. Wonder if you do some streams yourself. Until then, yeah, take care from me. Bye-bye.